Hey, welcome back to Mr. News Art Class. It's wonderful to see your smiling faces today. For this week's Zentangle video, I wanted to show you 12 different Zentangle patterns that you can easily create on your own. For the first pattern, we're going to start with a simple grid of straight lines, and then we're going to make each little box look a little bit three-dimensional by giving each one a little bubble in the top right corner. And if you want to shake things up, you could choose a line down the middle where you flip. I was doing these bubbles on the right-hand corner on this side, but now I'm doing them on the left-hand corner. And by having them flip right across the middle here, it almost looks like there's a bright light shining down the center, and there's shadows being cast to both sides. For my second pattern, I'm going to start with some loopy seaweed looking shapes. Those are simple. It's just a curved line that loops at the end and then goes parallel to itself. And maybe I want some of these to overlap. And I did that with my largest size. This is an 08. Then I'm going to switch to the smallest size I have, 005, and fill the background with circles. And you could really stop at any point. I could make these circles go all the way up, but I kind of like the gravity that it has by having them just at the bottom. Some people say that this looks like seaweed with a bunch of rocks at the bottom of the ocean floor. For the third pattern, I'm going to go back to my 08, and I'm going to make a series of wavy lines. But I don't want them to be thin. I want them to be nice, thick, wavy lines. They don't have to be the same thickness the whole way down. This particular wavy line here has some thick areas and some thin areas. A similar effect could be made with a brush tip. This is a B for brush tip. Where I push down harder, I have a thicker line, and where I'm softer and gentler, I have a narrow line. And another similar effect could be made with a chisel tip. This is a C for chisel. Now with the chisel tip, depends on which way I turn it. Maybe I have the chisel horizontal, so when I go up it makes a thick line, and when I go over it makes a thin line. Or if I do a vertical chisel, going sideways I get a thick line, and going up I get a thin line. Then I'm going to come back to my smallest, my 005, and I'm going to make little filigrees, little hairs, little cilia that come up from each line. Some people say they almost look like little eyelashes. And it's okay if they curve in different directions. For my fourth pattern, I'm going to start this time with a thin 005 pen. And coming down from a corner, I'm going to make a long, skinny little filigree like that. And I want to make this into a shape instead of a line. It's going to be pointy at the end. And it's going to be a little bit wider at the top. I want to make a few of these. And then from the end of each tip, I want to carry it on out and make a little loopy spiral. Then I'll switch back to my larger pen, my 08, and I'm going to make a few similar shapes, sort of half crescent moon shapes, that kind of branch off from the original shapes I made. That was my smallest and largest pen. Now I'm going to go to a more medium size, an 03 or an 05, an in-between size, and I'm simply going to make some dots. I'm just making little dotted lines wherever I feel like they're necessary. And there's, again, no wrong way to do it. For my next pattern, I'm going to start with a medium-sized tip. This is an 03. And I'm going to make one spiral that fills the whole square. And then I'm going to switch to my largest again, my 08, because I'm going to be filling some areas. I'm going to come to the center of my spiral and fill the gap between two lines. Then I skip a space and fill the gap again. Then I skip a space and fill the gap again. And then I skip a space and fill the gap. And I keep doing that until I've gone all the way to the edge. For the sixth pattern, I'm going to start with my 03 again. And I'm going to branch out from a corner. What I'm going to do is make a pointy, curvy shape. And then around the tip of that shape, I want to make a leafy shape, or teardrop shape. And that's all there is to it. If I want to get really fancy, I could add like a little drop of dew on there. And then I'm going to just repeat that same shape again and again. And you could fill all the way, or you could just branch in one direction or another, and there's no wrong way to do it. And for the next pattern, the seventh pattern here, I'm going to imagine that there's a little circle. I'm not actually going to draw it. But I'm going to draw lines that come away from an imaginary circle and have a little dot at the end. I'm using the thick one again, the 08. But this can be done with any size. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to use several different sizes. Just keep repeating that same shape with several different sized pens and different sized lines with dots. Kind of looks like fireworks. For the eighth pattern, I'm going to start with my thickest, my 08. And coming out from a corner, I'm going to make a long line that ends with a spiral. And I also want to flare out a spiral on the other side of that line. And those are kind of small spirals, but as I work my way down this line back towards the corner, I'm going to make slightly longer, larger spirals. And why not? Make a few really tiny ones at the very end. Then I want to switch back to my littlest, my 005. And along the underside of each spiral, I'm going to make a row of dots. And for my ninth pattern, I'm going to start with a medium size 03 or 05, and I'm going to make a series of lines that go through the center. Notice they don't have to be straight, but they do need to go all the way through the center. And there don't have to be a certain number of them. Just stop when you feel like you have enough, and then switch to your smallest. Here I have an 005. For the space between these lines, I'm going to make parallel stripes, and I'm going to alternate which way I angle them. In the next bar across, I want them to go the opposite direction. In the next box, I'm going to use rows of circles to construct a box letter. And then I'm going to go back in with a smaller 005 and make a row of dots that follows along the inside of the row of circles. For the 11th box, I'm going to start with a grid. This time I'm going to make the squares in the grid a little bit larger than I did on the first one. In alternating squares, I'm going to draw spirals. And it doesn't matter what size pen you use. I'm using the 08 here. But if you choose a smaller size, just keep in mind that smaller lines means you'll have more lines in each spiral. And that looks like a tic-tac-toe board with vertigo. And for the last pattern here, I'm going to switch to a medium-sized 03, or an 05 would work. And what I'm going to do is start by making a curved teardrop shape, almost like what you would think of as half of a yin-yang. So if I was drawing a whole yin-yang, I just want half of that. And I want to repeat this shape in a loop that goes around the page. So another curved teardroppy shape, and I can make this curve whichever way I want it to curve. And I just made them loop around back towards the first one. Now I'll switch to my thickest 08 pen, and I want to get an aura around this whole shape. And then I'll switch to my thinnest, my 005, to do the same thing on the inside. And that's 12 little doodles you can feel free to use anytime you're drawing, whether it's a Zentangle or any other kind of drawing. As always, I've left links in the description for all of the supplies that I used or talked about in this video. And those are affiliate links, which means if you use them, it directly supports this channel and it helps me keep these videos coming to you. If you want to be part of Mr. New's art class, subscribe for weekly beginner art tips on Thursdays and new Zentangle videos every Sunday. And thanks again for watching. I hope I was able to inspire you today.